Hello everyone. The worst predictions have come true. On February 28, 2026, a war began between the United States and Israel on one side and Iran on the other. In response, Iran launched attacks on American bases across the Middle East, from Dubai and Abu Dhabi to Kuwait and Manama. Some are already calling this the beginning of World War III. It all started with a preventive strike by Israel on Iranian cities, including the capital Tehran, the country's second largest city Isfahan, as well as Kerj and Kermanshah. According to Israeli journalists, thousands of Iranian military personnel were wounded. One of the targets was reportedly the residence of Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. Local media say he had already left the capital by that time. American forces soon joined the attacks. Donald Trump stated that the goal of the United States was, quote, to protect the American people by eliminating the immediate threat posed by the Iranian regime. According to him, the US-Israeli alliance plans to destroy Iran's missile industry in the coming days. Trump also called on Iran's Revolutionary Guard and armed forces to lay down their weapons and urged Iranian citizens to overthrow their government.
This will be probably your only chance for generations.
Iran responded by launching missiles toward Israel and almost completely shutting down the internet nationwide. At the time of recording, connectivity across the country was estimated at just 4% of normal levels. Neighboring countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Bahrain, and Kuwait, may also be at risk. Today I'll walk you through everything currently known about this new war that all sides had been preparing for over a long period. How many people may have been killed? What are the leaders of the US, Israel, and Iran saying? Are nuclear negotiations involved? And can this really be called World War III? All the answers are coming up. But before you continue watching, friends, like the video and subscribe to the channel. I have a feeling we'll be discussing this war many more times. So, around midnight, US time on the night of February 28th, Israel and the United States launched coordinated strikes against Iran. The first attacks were reported in Tehran, Isfahan, and Kermanshah. In the opening hours of the war, rumors spread about the deaths of high-ranking Iranian officials, and later those reports were partially confirmed. Iranian media say intelligence headquarters, government buildings, the presidential complex, Tehran's airport, and the home of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei were targeted. According to Reuters, he was moved to an undisclosed secure location. There were also reports of an assassination attempt on Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, though Iranian authorities claim he was unharmed. Israel's Channel 12, citing an unnamed official, described the operation as a major success in eliminating elements of Iran's leadership. The Times of Israel suggested the reports may refer to senior Iranian commanders and possibly figures close to the president. Preliminary information indicates that at least 30 targets were struck that morning, including a Revolutionary Guard base in Kermanshah, a facility in Tabriz, and a missile base near Tehran. The United States carried out additional strikes from both air and sea. According to the New York Times, dozens of strikes were launched using aircraft stationed across the Middle East, as well as from one or more aircraft carriers. Missiles also hit Kharg Island in the Persian Gulf, a key hub of Iran's oil industry. Anticipating retaliation, Israel closed its airspace and declared a 48-hour state of emergency. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said the country had carried out a preventive strike to eliminate threats against Israel. Later, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the nation, announcing the start of a large-scale joint operation with the United States called Lion's Roar. Israel mobilized 70,000 reservists, 20,000 newly called up, in addition to 50,000 already serving. Netanyahu said the operation aims to eliminate what he described as an existential threat posed by Iran's regime. He also called for a revolution inside Iran, saying the goal was to create conditions for the Iranian people to take their destiny into their own hands. US President Donald Trump delivered a similar address, stating that the American operation was named Epic Fury. According to him, US forces intend to destroy Iran's missile industry and naval fleet. Trump urged Iran's military and police to surrender or face destruction, while encouraging citizens to seize control of their future. He justified the war as necessary to protect Americans after nuclear negotiations with Iran failed. Iranian officials, speaking through media sources, declared that after the joint US-Israeli attack, there were now no red lines. Iran's Supreme National Security Council promised a crushing response and claimed the strikes occurred while diplomatic efforts were still ongoing. Authorities said they had anticipated such a scenario and accused the United States and Israel of believing Iran would surrender under pressure. Schools and universities across Iran were closed until further notice. Banks continued operating, while government institutions switched to reduce capacity. Iran soon launched dozens of ballistic missiles toward Israel. Air raid sirens sounded throughout the country. According to the Times of Israel, some missiles were intercepted by air defense systems, while others landed in open areas, leaving at least one person lightly injured. Neighboring countries also began preparing for escalation. Qatar reported intercepting an Iranian missile. Iran struck a U.S. naval base in Bahrain, headquarters of the U.S. Fifth Fleet, a central hub for American military operations in the region. The Revolutionary Guard claimed responsibility for attacks on 4 regional bases, including Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, Ali Al Salem Air Base in Kuwait, and Al Dhafra Air Base in the UAE. Iranian officials said retaliatory actions would continue until the United States and Israel were defeated. Iraq, positioned between Iran and Israel, closed its airspace, followed by the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Syria. Air raid alerts were also reported in Jordan. According to the BBC, at least 11 airlines suspended flights to the Middle East, including Lufthansa, Air France, British Airways, Wizz Air, Turkish Airlines, Qatar Airways, Virgin Atlantic, Japan Airlines, Swiss Air, Iberia Express, and Air India. Iran's military warned that any country assisting Israel could become a target. By the time this video was recorded, media outlets were already reporting explosions in Dubai, Riyadh, Abu Dhabi, Kuwait, and Bahrain. Middle East analyst Mariana Belenkaya, citing Arab sources, reported that Israel continued striking Hezbollah targets in Lebanon and pro-Iranian groups in Iraq, where casualties were reported. Hezbollah itself was not expected to join the war immediately, though Yemen's Houthi forces might resume attacks on ships in the Red Sea, possibly even targeting Israel. According to the Wall Street Journal, at least 5 Middle Eastern countries could be at risk: Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Bahrain, and Kuwait. The publication warned that Dubai's reputation as a safe haven for wealthy residents could collapse quickly. Later reports said Iranian ballistic missiles struck Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. What is happening inside Iran remains largely unclear. Satellite images show significant damage near Khamenei's residence in Tehran. Iran's National Security Council urged residents to leave the capital. Shortly after the attacks began, the country nearly completely shut down internet access. Monitoring service NetBlocks reported connectivity had dropped to about 4% of normal levels, similar to measures taken during last year's 12-day war and recent protests over soaring inflation. Iran's foreign ministry called on all UN member states, especially regional and Islamic nations, to condemn the attack. Russia's embassy in Iran described the events as aggression by the United States and Israel, while Russia's foreign ministry called them a pre-planned and unprovoked act of armed aggression against a sovereign UN member state. Diplomatic missions urged their citizens to leave Iran and Israel if possible. The European Union expressed concern and called on all sides to show restraint, stating it remained in close contact with regional partners. The UAE condemned Iran's strike on Abu Dhabi as a blatant violation of sovereignty and international law, reserving the right to respond. Reuters reported that at least one person was killed in Abu Dhabi when missile debris struck a residential building after interception. Information about casualties remains limited, though Iran is believed to have suffered the highest losses. Reuters reports that several senior commanders of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and prominent political figures were killed. Authorities in the Iranian city of Minab reported at least 40 deaths after a strike hit a school, including 24 children, among them 5 elementary school girls. Fox News reported no casualties following Iranian strikes on US bases in the Persian Gulf. Canada and Australia voiced support for the US operation, saying measures aimed at preventing Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons were justified. In comments to the Washington Post, Donald Trump said, "All I want is freedom for the people. I want a safe country. And that's what we are going to achieve." Reports also indicated an Iranian missile struck a military base in Kuwait hosting Italian troops, damaging the runway but causing no injuries among approximately 300 personnel stationed there. Most media outlets, from Israeli sources to Al Jazeera, suggest the broader goal of the attacks is regime change in Iran. Reuters reports that the United States and Israel plan to continue intensive strikes for several days, with the operation reportedly planned weeks in advance. The New York Times, citing US officials, says upcoming attacks could be far larger than those carried out last summer. Exiled Iranian Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi also weighed in, writing on social media that the help promised to the brave Iranian people had finally arrived. He described the operation as a humanitarian intervention targeting the Islamic Republic's system of repression rather than the Iranian nation itself, and called on citizens to prepare to return to the streets. The US attack came 2 days after a third round of indirect nuclear negotiations with Iran held in Geneva on February 26th, which ended without a breakthrough. 5 previous negotiation rounds had taken place last May, while a 6th planned for June 2025 was cancelled following Israeli strikes on Iranian targets. Last summer, the United States struck 3 key Iranian nuclear facilities, claiming the program had been significantly set back. Although the regime was weakened and economic problems fueled protests earlier this year, it ultimately remained in power. To understand how Iran's current leadership emerged, you need to look at the country's history. Let me know in the comments if you'd like a separate video about what Iran used to be like and how it became what it is today. The Islamic Republic of Iran is actually a relatively young state, less than 50 years old. The current system was established after the Islamic Revolution of 1979. Power in Iran is structured in a complex but, in some ways, semi-democratic manner. The title Ayatollah is a high religious rank in Shiite Islam, a scholar of Islamic law authorized to issue religious rulings. In Iran, religious authorities ultimately hold political power, meaning the country's leader must be a theologian rather than an economist or lawyer. So where does this leave us? As of the time of recording, no ground operation has been announced. The United States appears to be betting on internal opposition within Iran. Whether that strategy will work remains to be seen. The UN will likely express concern and call for peace talks, as it usually does. Russian propaganda will likely frame events as a new global norm. The conflict may also influence negotiations related to Ukraine. We may soon see a new wave of Iranian refugees heading toward Europe, along with renewed protests by pro-Palestinian activists around the world. As producer Alexander Rodnyansky once wrote, it feels like the title of Stanley Kramer's classic film, It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Except that film was a satire. The genre we're living in now is very different. More than a dozen countries are already involved in this conflict in one way or another. Some call it a global war in the Middle East, others are already calling it World War III. Traditionally, a world war is defined as a massive armed conflict involving most countries across multiple continents. For now, it may be more accurate to describe this as a large regional war that grew out of a proxy conflict, but history will ultimately decide the correct name. What do you think, guys? Should we expect a prolonged conflict? Could this escalate into a third world war? Share your thoughts in the comments. That's all for now. Expect more videos on this topic very soon. There will definitely be a lot of news ahead. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you don't miss anything, and I'll see you soon. If anything urgent happens, I'll be back immediately with a breaking update. Take care, everyone. Bye.